Hi, everybody. I hope you're having a great start to your day as we get to cover a really important topic today. We are talking to Evie Jenner. I love Evie. I know you guys are going to as well as we talk about the female cycle. Now, guys, do not run away. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being brave. Women, too, don't run away because I know this isn't a fun topic. But guess what? We're going to make it as fun as possible. We are going to stick together to learn how to work around through in all of the different seasons of a woman's monthly cycle together today with education from one of the foremost Enneagram experts on the topic. Evie is fantastic. You might know her from the Instagram The Type Guide. And of course, I'm leaving her information and freebies in the show notes for you as well. I love chatting with her on Instagram Live. She is a wealth of knowledge and resources about all the different ways we're going to grow together. And today I'm putting my cards on the table with Evie so that I can be as vulnerable and learn along with you guys as possible too. You know, I love real marriage stories and I love to make sure that we can truly grow because this is a huge piece of marriage. And this whole month of July, we're covering sexuality. And this is part of it. This is the reproductive cycle. This is the sex education you always needed, always wanted, probably, and yet never probably got. Because when we learn about it when we're kids, we don't learn about the cycle for marriage and we just aren't there yet. And then we don't usually get that learning in churches, although I think there's a few churches trying to do better with that. And we've talked a lot about purity culture and even the good intentions within purity culture to help us to, not have as many Gen X systematic issues, but also then there was this overlay of judgment and shame over just women. So we're coming back to the space of togetherness to really see that our cycles are part of our life together as couples. And there are absolutely beautiful moments that we can embrace and even really play up throughout the month together and have more fun. And then there's moments when we need to really remember the shadows, remember the exhaustion, the fatigue, all the different emotions that go with that. And I'm so grateful we get to cover all of that today. So make sure you check out last week's topics on how to grow closer together in your sexual dynamic. I really wanted you to build a healthier sexual culture this month together. And I know you do too. And then also make sure you continue to walk through with us as we walk all the way through more important topics this whole month. So stick around, but right here with you guys doing the work. Let's bring Evie on right now. All right. Evie, thank you so much for joining us on the Enneagram and Marriage Pod. This is so exciting.
This is so exciting. This is like a bucket list moment for me, Krista. So I am just thrilled to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh my gosh, I'm so happy to hear that. I had so much fun talking with you on Instagram Live and got all these DMs about it. And so we are here with everybody now. Thank you for joining us all the way from the UK. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, sure. Yes, I'm across the pond in the UK. I live in Sheffield, which is kind of near Manchester. It's in the north of England. So it's quite small. Maybe you probably haven't heard of it. But I
No.
live here with my type 5 husband, and I think my type 9 dog, until she tells me otherwise.
Love it.
Um, Thanks. And I mean, we touched on it in the Instagram live, but I love menstrual cycles. I love supporting women and well, everybody. The menstrual cycles affect us all, and so yeah, doing this work alongside being an Enneagram coach is just my dream. I can't believe that I'm on this podcast. This has been a dream for a while. So yeah, thrilled to be here from sunny Sheffield and yeah, excited to connect with you in this way.
Oh my gosh, me too. So excited. I've already warned all the male listeners, don't go anywhere before we got on. This is for
Yeah.
everybody. I even had to give Wes a little education on that because he's like, "What's your interview about this morning?" And I was like, "Menstrual cycles." And I said it like with joy and enthusiasm. And he was like, "Okay, bye." And I'm like, "No, this is for you. This is one of these episodes you're going to be listening to as well." And I think that's just a welcome that we can tease one another, but also be very serious with this. Like, this affects everybody. And we're so grateful that you have a special focus in it. You guys, she is so on fire with it, A, but B, you are so, as a type one, very detailed and practical with it. So, we're going to bring you guys so much healing in your marriage today. Thank you, Evie. Tell us a little bit about your own marriage as we get started.
Yeah, sure. So I was obviously, as I mentioned
Yes.
before,
Yes.
I'm married to a type 5. So, he is secretive. So I have to be a little bit I have to run things through him before I share them
Right.
on the podcast
Yes.
because that
Absolutely.
secretive part of him is really real and true, and I want to honor that.
Yeah.
But he's really excited that I'm on this podcast as well. And so, yeah, we wanted to share about the fact that I think the 1 and the 5 is such an interesting dynamic. And we actually met at a discipleship year about 10 years ago
Mm.
with our church. And we actually didn't reveal to each other that we liked each other. A friend had to do that for us. And I think that
Mm.
that can really be that withdrawing stance, that dependent stance. It's difficult to find somebody to take charge. And yeah, we were both too nervous and too shy to do that, which I think is such a funny, yeah, sweet. It's a
Yeah.
sweet part of our journey and our
Mm.
story. And
Yeah.
and yeah, I think it really can encapsulate the 1 and the 5 when they don't feel super safe or super comfortable yet, and they're, feeling quite nervous. So that's the beginning of our story.
That's so
And now our
beautiful.
marriage, we will be married 7 years this month. So we've been doing it for
Ooh.
a little bit of time
Yeah,
ish.
congrats. That's a big year. You've gotten past the 1 to 5 honeymoon stage and you're in it now, and I love that for you.
Yeah, we are in it for sure. Yeah, totally. I think our marriage is really real.
Good.
I have had, a real journey with a number of chronic illnesses that, from the moment that I got ill about 6 months before we met. So that has always been a part of our story. And then, yeah, my husband has had a real journey with his mental health as well, especially over the COVID years. So
Mm.
we are in a very real space, and I think, yeah, there's something really grounded about the 1 and 5 pairing that I am super forever grateful for. So yeah, but we also, sometimes can find each other in that 7 space and be silly.
Mm.
And yeah, I think laughter is the most important part of our marriage, or it is right now anyway. Laughing daily is just so
Mm.
important to both of us. So
Oh, I love
yeah, that
that.
we really value laughing together and having fun.
Oh my gosh, and I bet you have some wit to you. Obviously, the Brit wit. I know Britain or the UK has sort of a 5 overlay of intelligent humor.
Oh,
And so do you feel like you guys tease each other a lot and use
oh,
sarcasm?
yes, so much sarcasm. I think potentially too much, especially when our American friends and Canadian friends hear us playing with each other. Sometimes they would query, "What's going on, guys?" But yeah, the Brit wit is very real, especially in my household, for sure.
I love it, and I wanna be a fly on the wall just to get some of that juice because we have a lot of dad jokes going on over here. But Wes is funny with them, and I'm like, "I'm your laugh track, so, just keep going because I enjoy it." But but we do need work sometimes, so we'll learn from you guys.
Oh.
Tell us a little bit about just you. I love that you are the one-to-one or sexual one because that is an often misunderstood part of the Enneagram 1. A lot of people, A, wouldn't identify as that or wouldn't know how to really even look at that part. So, can you tell us a little bit about the overlay that you mentioned before we got on and just a bit of so people can identify if they're a 1, maybe they realize they have more of this, or if they're married to somebody with this, that they get some ideas about it.
Yeah, totally, of course. I think it really revolutionized my understanding of my Enneagram type once I
Mm.
did yeah, the subtype work. And so, yeah, hopefully this could be really helpful for anybody who is thinking about if they're a one, or maybe are feeling more disconnected from their type than other people. Because yeah, the
Mhm,
sexual one, that
mhm,
subtype is the counter type. So I
mhm,
look more like a type 8. I
mhm.
sound more like a type 8. I have
Yeah,
the energy that looks a little bit more type 8-ish.
yeah, mhm,
Because that's kind of the vibe, the energy, the outline of the
mhm,
sexual type one. I am much more focused on trying to perfect the world and all the issues of the world
mhm,
than myself, or
mhm.
what's right in front of me, right here in my kitchen.
Yeah,
I kind of don't mind if my kitchen is not perfect, but I am just burnt out, desperate to sort out the big issues, the
mm,
the the drive I have to see, sustained change in this world for absolutely everybody that needs it,
yeah,
is
yeah,
unending. And that energy, I think, that sounds like you, if you can tap into that part of yourself, yeah, maybe you're a sexual one, because I can't understand the rest of you guys who are happy to spend lots of time cleaning the kitchen, or just want to connect with friends, or want to read another book. Guys, we got stuff to do. What are we doing relaxing?
Yes, you said that you love to just find a place that you can help, and in that 8, like you said, supercharged energy, you love to bring the changes inside the family, outside the family, but it's less about, the perfectionism and more about, that big hero protector complex, and I like that, you know that, and I think it's also a very romantic subtype of the one that people may feel like, how does that part look? And while we protect you and your husband's marriage, what can you share about just that part of it where you're like, on the one-to-one level, this is how I show up sometimes?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think especially this is heightened even more
Yeah.
by being married to somebody in that withdrawing stance, because, I wake up each day and I'm ready to try and save the world, which is, that's a real genuine heart, but
Yeah.
kind of, a bit silly of me to think that I might have any level of authority to be able to get that done. So I am organizing things. I'm
Yeah.
having everybody I meet over for dinner. I
Yeah.
am
Yeah.
sending dinner out to other families that maybe are tired, or their
Oh,
child is unwell, or they're looking after a family member. I actually don't do any of the cooking in my household. My husband is the chef. So,
mm.
I am just forcing him to cook for everybody else, deliver it, get it done. I'm out,
Yeah.
doing washing at someone's house, and
Yeah.
I haven't checked in with my husband, and you text him the details and say, get on with it, because
Yeah.
we got to
Yeah.
get this stuff done, Jen. And that, you know, Jen, my husband, that
Mhm.
that can be tough to be in relationship with. That is a difficult energy to try and combat. And we know with the eights, you kind of have to get on their level to
Yeah.
get them to kind of calm
Mhm.
down, or chill out, or zoom
Yeah.
out sometimes. And so,
Mhm.
yeah, my husband has to, we have to be quite on that, because I
Yeah.
can run away with myself there, and that causes
Yeah.
many issues.
Yeah, and you just healed so many people's marriages with that statement of, thankfully, well, if it's a 1-5 pairing, the 5 has a very strong line to 8. So John can do that and he can step up. It's not always the first thing he would do as a withdrawing type, but he's got it pretty close to the front pocket. So I like that he can do that. But everyone else listening, as you approach somebody who's a 1 or an 8, or anybody who's in that space of let's go, 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 when you rise up to it and you either support it or challenge it, that's good, because then they know where you really stand. And it's been lately a subject of several of our interviews in different places for people to say that's something they had to learn. So I hope as you're listening along with us or watching on YouTube that you realize that you have to step in if you have a strong partner. Is that right for you guys too?
Oh my gosh, 100%. And that would even go the other way when
Mm,
my husband is in his 7, or
mm,
if he's in his 8. I have to, yeah, find my seven, or find my kind of bigger energy, louder energy to go, hey, well, let's make sure that we're communicating
Mm.
and not just doing.
Yes, yes.
Which can be a little bit of an issue because, especially for my pairing, emotions are, far and few between.
Mhm. Yeah.
Really got to go searching for that. I do think I wing too, but still that access point is something I have to work on. And when we're thinking about the centers of intelligence, we know that we want them to be balanced. We know
Mm.
that that is the healthiest version of each of us. Yes, I'm primarily a doer, but
Mhm.
I have to make sure I'm feeling, and I have to make sure I'm thinking as well. And good grief, it can take a little moment to find both of those
Yeah.
deep down, buried somewhere within me sometimes.
Oh my gosh, so many listeners are just nodding with you vigorously, like, "We cannot find our feelings," and I know I'm doing the same thing. And
I'm
so,
sure. Yeah,
yes,
of course.
you're really, yeah, sharing well that people have to, uh, put the work in to balance those 3 intelligence centers of the gut, the head, and the heart, and when you do, like you said, your marriage has the right boundaries, the right balance. Now you're in a place where you have the humility of, "Okay, I can't save everybody, but we could probably still bring that family dinner." And your husband can say, "I have my boundaries, but, we could probably, share that dinner with that family, and we're all doing it in our own ways, or we could probably access these feelings together." So, thank you for reminding us to meet in these places, especially as we take this journey into the menstrual cycle of how feelings are a big part of it, and being honest is a big part of it, because all the statistics tell us 90% of women do have changes through the month, and they do affect the family. So, tell us a little bit about what would you say, really, with these menstrual cycles, is one of the most important reasons why both partners want to be tracking?
Yeah, love this question. Love this question. I think it's always going to deepen intimacy and deepen connection. Now, that intimacy could be sexual, sure, but it also could just be knowing each other and
Yeah.
fully seeing each other. You know,
Mm,
you and me, Krista, will not have another day like today
mm,
hormonally for another 24 days or
mm,
28 days or 32 days. There are
mhm,
changes happening for us all of the time, which
mhm,
is really powerful and really beautiful and very, very different from the male hormonal system. And
mm,
so, to bridge that gap of essentially distance, we operate in a very different way from each other. How
mm.
do we find each other in that? Well, it's always going to start with awareness and education. And so just understanding each other, on a baseline level, I think is always going to create that intimacy and deepen that connection and actually be able to see each other and know each other.
That's a really, you said that so well, that we can really find these deeper spaces of knowing. And you hinted at that when you talked about you guys walking through a deep journey together, and even with chronic illness and mental health issues. And I feel like that's one of the most tender places of marriage, when you can know one another from just a look, and really say, "I'm not going anywhere," even when the, SH hits the fan. Like, this is the moments, and they come through the month, through the cycle sometimes too, where we can really support one another, knowing things are not the same, and we can't pretend they are. And so, how can we partner together through those lows? But I also hear this hint of, there's also some glorious moments through the month, as you've talked to me about before.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And I think there absolutely can be these lows in the menstrual cycle, but there doesn't have to be. I think once we bring our awareness and bring our understanding and then layer over the Enneagram and that level of understanding and mindset shift, actually, I think we can break down the cycle into four very clear opportunities rather than inconveniences. And, if we can
Mm.
stop working against our cycle and start working with it and come alongside it and actually have the family come alongside it as well,
Yeah.
wow, we're going to see some huge changes. Men and male hormonal cycles, you get another hit of testosterone every 15 minutes. It's going to top up mainly overnight when the man is asleep. And then throughout the day, we've got a little hit every 15 minutes. So
Mm.
there's a little boost up for you there, guys. If I can share, I am on cycle day 20 of 20. My cycle length is 29 days.
Mhm,
So my energy levels are going to be low,
mhm.
much lower for the next at least 10 days,
Yeah.
maybe 12, because I traveled this month actually. So I could have a bigger dip potentially. I am going to be operating and loving myself over the next 10 days in a very different way. I'm going to be making sure that I am prioritizing rest in a way that supports me as a type 1. I'm going
Oh.
to make sure that I'm honoring my sacred no. No, I can't do that today. I'd love to do it next
Mm.
week. No, I can't have that conversation today. I know I will not be showing up fully. I'd love to have that chat with you next week
Yeah.
or the week after. Can we find some time then? I'm putting in these boundaries to make sure that I do not run myself ragged, as it were, by just ignoring what my body's communicating to me. And so I think, my husband has the awareness of, okay, Evie is in her luteal phase now for the next 10 days. We're not going to redo the budget right now. That is not what's on the
Yeah.
agenda.
Yeah.
If there's something really big, that we need to talk about, I am going to make sure I do it in the middle of the day, once she's had a meal and she's having it alongside some red raspberry leaf tea that's going to help give her some
Mm.
natural boosts. I'm not going to do it, first thing in the morning or last thing at night when I'm naturally going to be a little bit slower.
Yeah.
And so we don't then have to have this conversation every month of, oh, actually, I'm starting to feel really tired. He just
Yeah.
knows it. That's
Mhm.
saving energy, that's saving time. And that
Mm.
fits really well for a type 5 partner for sure, because
Mhm.
his energy levels are, measured. But
Mhm.
I'm thinking of type 4s, I'm thinking of type 9 partners. That's really helpful for you guys as well. So I think just having this awareness is gonna, supercharge your time together, because you don't need to waste it having the same
Mm.
conversations over and over again. Does that make sense?
100%. And I know we're going to go over the cycles, but it's so
Mhm.
cool that you really invited people into seeing, like, hey, when I have lower energy in my 1/8 space, I can
Mhm.
meet my partner, especially if you have a withdrawing type partner, even in those phases that are, like you said, maybe culturally known to be like, these are the times when guys want to run away. And you're like, no, this is potentially a great time for bonding and resting together, setting boundaries, also just changing the dynamics of when we have certain conversations. I do notice a lot of the type 5 clients that are male that I have do the tracking, and they find it very helpful because they're like, I am tracking right along with her. And I've had to, as you know, feelings are not top for me. So I've had to really stretch myself to share with Wes my cycle. And it's something that I don't like to do, especially because he's medical and he knows it all. And so I'm like,
Oh.
oh, let's just stay away from that whole OBGYN area. But it's really helpful for even if you're like me and you don't want to step into that conversation because it has healed us so much to do that, to invite him in. Plus, I'm very honest with my feelings that particular week. So
Mhm.
it's a really good week for us to do our actual work that we need to do in the boundary setting we need to do. So, I laid my cards out on the table with my cycle last time. I'm on a 25-day cycle and I'm on day 4 right now. So I'm in a good energy space. Week 1.
Yeah.
But I definitely feel with you that our listeners need to hear the rhythms of the journey in general. So could you share with us that 4-week cycle that we generally take?
Yes, totally, totally. So I'm going to talk about, an average 28-day cycle, and you can just, if you're 24 days, if you're 32 days, you'll just want to stretch out the luteal phase and the follicular phase. If this
Okay.
sounds confusing, you can just DM me afterwards, and I can help with that for sure. But yes, let's get into it. So we have, cycle day 1 to 7 ish is our menstrual phase.
Mhm.
That's when we have our period. That's when we're bleeding. That's when all of our hormone levels are at the lowest.
Yeah.
So we really need to focus on resting and recharging. And I think this is the perfect opportunity for releasing. Our body is physically releasing, she is shedding her uterine lining, your womb. How can
Mhm.
respect that and honor that
Mhm.
by resting and creating space and creating, a little bit of a nest to be in as much as possible
Mhm.
in your home or in your safe space? And then how can you release? I think it's the perfect time to release, especially from a relationship point of view. What's been hard over the past month? How can
Mm.
you create space and let that go?
Mm.
If you have a faith or a spiritual practice, this is the perfect time to really go inward into your body, your mind, your soul, and allow, whatever you're believing in to create closeness and connection, and through that a level of release. It's just really the perfect time. And then once your bleed finishes, we start to move through into the follicular phase, which is about 6 days, sometimes a bit longer, sometimes a bit shorter.
Mhm.
And the follicular phase is when, we start to see estrogen rising, testosterone begins to rise. So we have a little bit more pizzazz about us.
Mhm.
We're ready to see friends. We're
Yeah.
ready to, do that big pitch at work.
Yeah.
Optimism is, flowing a little bit easier. So again, if we're kind of thinking relationally, gosh, this is the perfect time to go on a date or
Mhm.
do a family day or
Mhm.
have people over for dinner or, something that suits you and reflects who you are as a person that has a little bit higher energy. Maybe you want to take an extra class at the gym. Maybe you want to go to the gym together.
Mhm.
This would be the perfect time to do that because your body is stronger.
Mhm.
And things like HIIT workouts can really reflect how your body is feeling here as a woman, as somebody with a menstrual cycle.
Mm.
Again, these maybe harder conversations could happen here because we're a little bit emotionally robust in
Mm.
that things that maybe are painful are not going to hurt as much,
Mm.
because of our hormonal levels acting as a bit of a buffer. So that's something
Mm.
to consider potentially.
So cool. So helpful for marriage conflicts that need to be discussed. This is the time also for intimacy. This is a pretty good time, right?
Oh, yeah, totally, totally, totally. I think, if let's just talk about intimacy for a second. I think, at all phases of them, if we want to just get into
Yeah.
it and
Yeah.
remove the taboo of,
Yeah.
sex only being allowed at certain parts of the cycle,
Right.
actually, I think there are moments for intimacy in all parts of the cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And so let's talk about that in the menstrual cycle then, because there's such a stigma and such a taboo around that. But if you are
Mm.
somebody who has different gynecological issues, this can be a really healthy and helpful time to be intimate because
Mm.
the menstrual blood has cells in it as you're bleeding that
Mm.
heal your uterus, your womb area. It's flooded with nutrients.
Oh, I
So
didn't know
it's
that.
one of the best times if you have things like vaginosis or other gynecological issues. This could be a perfect time for intimacy. Now I know there's a huge stigma around that. Please don't turn off if that's not for you. That's
Yeah.
totally okay.
Yeah.
But if this sounds like something that
Yeah.
could be a bit of an answer to a problem that you've been having, gosh, I'd love you to explore it. If you think about humans, thousands of years ago, that was very normal and very common. And if we want to talk about the type of intimacy, this is a perfect time to be really purposeful and meaningful and have a real deep connection.
Mm.
Um, I,
Mhm.
I think as a possibility, as an idea, I'm just proposing that.
Yeah, yeah, and it can
But
help
then,
guys to really see, like, this is real. This is what
mm,
happens, and
mm,
maybe my wife is stronger than I ever realized, and, we see men as protectors, and we don't want to stop, whether we're in the wild or in real life, but also to be able to say, "Wow," like, we recently watched the movie The Quiet Place, and we were laughing because Emily Blunt is just so strong, and we're like, "Yes, this is women," like,
God.
women and men have different, so I like
Mhm.
it just for that too, like, to show the intimacy between couples in different seasons, even if you're
Yeah,
not always, uh,
yeah.
choosing that week to be intimate, just to know what's going on is it's very intimate, and as we talked about last time, even my son has a lot of period awareness, and he's like, "I'm gonna be a good husband one day because I know all about this, all you ladies talk about it way too much," but yes, I he's totally comfortable now.
Yeah, that's amazing, isn't it? If we think about the next generation, and I would say my husband is 32. So, what is that? A millennial? But
Yeah.
even he has such a openness and awareness that, our dads maybe don't have.
Yeah.
Um, that's a huge change already. And then if we think about your son and just how much more informed he's going to be,
Yeah.
gosh, we're like saving so
Yeah.
many marital issues by
Yeah.
just everybody having the same
Mm.
level of understanding and awareness. It's huge.
Mm. Yeah.
Just incredible,
Yeah.
incredible work you're doing, Krista. I just, yeah, honor you so much. And I'm so thankful for that as well. It's so
Oh,
cool to
yeah.
see.
Yeah, well, I'm so thankful for you because you're even
Oh,
teaching me today on why with my shorter cycle, like day 3 was hard and I was emotional. And as a 7, I don't come near crying that much, but I came near it. I talked about doing it. I said I might do it. I didn't end up doing it. There was probably some glassy eyes. But it's like I'm jumping into that energy phase now. And
mm,
I can see
mm,
that, we're all different with the days that
yeah,
happens, but it's
yes,
really, and also for me, sometimes day 4 or 5, like, sometimes for listeners, you might need to tell your spouse there's a bit of a buffer, and sometimes day 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 will look a little transitional.
yes,
Sometimes, like you said, if you have a vacation, this is gonna be a bit different, and so it's kind of educating your spouse as you walk through, or being the spouse to ask, "Where are
yes.
you?" But you've talked about those first 2 phases. Tell us about the next 2.
Totally, yes. So then after we've been in our follicular phase for about 6-ish days, we then head straight into ovulation. The
Mhm.
ovulatory phase is gorgeous. We are peaking. Our hormone levels are kind of the ideal.
Yeah.
We are, vibrant and magnetic and communicative, and we are, really excited for connection. Just
Yeah.
on a baseline level, our hormones, our body, our
Mm.
mindset, even if we are a social subtype, even if we are a self-preservation subtype, there is a shift and a change there.
Mm.
You just might need to look for it a little bit more and build that awareness in. But the ovulatory phase, yes, a gorgeous time for a date night, a gorgeous time to explore each other. Intimacy wise and sexually, to build in that time can just be a really beautiful way to kind of honor your body and
Mm.
and potentially how you're feeling, and know that you're making space for that, because it's such a fantastic time to do that. Again, without any pressure. If you don't feel like that, well, of course, that's absolutely fine. Listen to what your body's communicating to you. But there is potentially an opportunity for that. There's also an opportunity for a lot of creativity to come through in this time.
Mm.
The different hormones at this time, how they're affecting the brain, we might feel a little bit more creative, whether that be a creative solution to a problem
Mhm.
that we're having in a marriage,
Yeah.
or wanting to create and bake something with the family. Creativity can look, all different ways. So again, hold space for that as an opportunity to come through.
Mm.
And this
Yeah.
phase is the shortest. It's 24 hours,
Mm.
scientifically. I think
Mhm.
we can stretch it out to 3 days,
Yeah.
and kind of, if we know it's coming, we can get a little bit excited for it, and
Yeah.
enjoy that and try and stretch it out as much
Mhm.
as possible
I love that.
before we, yeah, before we head into our luteal phase, which
Mm.
is the final phase
Yeah.
of our menstrual cycle. It's probably the the most important phase to get right, potentially.
Mhm.
It's 2 weeks long. Progesterone is rising, estrogen has dropped off, our dopamine levels are lower, our immune system is weaker. We will be hungrier and need to consume more food because our body is burning more energy just naturally. And
Mm.
so this is a place where we can see a lot of issues come up,
Mm.
ignoring the body's needs, ignoring that we are slowing down and feeling more tired, ignoring that actually
Mhm.
we're just not feeling as naturally happy as we usually do,
Mhm.
ignoring the fact that we are hungrier
Mhm.
because we want to just fit into this 24-hour cycle. It can be such an issue, a place for pitfalls to happen. And so, again, if both of you
Mm.
can go into it with this awareness, maybe you plan
Mm.
in a few like heftier meals during this time.
Yeah.
If we're cycle syncing properly, sweet potato, quinoa. We maybe want to have some pork during this time if you eat pork. But there are some certain foods that you can eat during this time to help satiate you more, and really help detoxify that blood ahead of your bleed. that's coming up in the next few weeks. But also, you touched on it earlier, Krista. You said, actually during this time, I can say what I mean a bit more. You talked about being able to be a bit more open communicatively, and I think that is absolutely true.
Mm.
Because our dopamine levels are a bit lower, you're kind of getting a truer response where we're kind of not being blasted by a little hit of serotonin.
Yeah.
We kind of have the truest response of ourselves. So I do think this is the perfect time to, if you're not a two, be really keyed into your intuition and actually what do you really feel? Because
Yeah.
you're able to share it in a way that is not clouded by the need to try and be happy because you're not feeling super duper, crazy happy. You're
Yeah.
kind of just
Yeah.
here in the middle, a little bit more, natural baseline. And so that could be a great space to have those harder conversations if it
Mm.
feels safe, if you
Yeah.
don't feel too tired, of course.
Yes. And I think if your partner is ready too, because like you said, with the male having the little testosterone dips through the day, you may have to find the time of day when they can
Totally.
have the conversation too.
Totally.
So it's a bit of a dance to be able to say who has the energy, what are their personality types, what are their instincts. And when people follow you, do they have access to like a chart or to be able to see the four phases out?
Yes, so if you sign up to my mailing list, you get free, like an 8-part planner through explaining the different parts of your cycle and some different affirmations and self-love moments to support you in those different parts of the cycle. But then also you can download my Enneagram specific um, tracker, which can be really helpful for you to, I think there is something really special about putting pen to paper about what's going on in your body,
Yeah.
to
Mhm.
actually sit down and take maybe 2 minutes each day to actually write out what's happening. And then it's not on your phone. Your partner could see that. If you leave that somewhere in your bedroom, if you leave that somewhere in the kitchen, somewhere that you're happy to have it, actually you can
Mm.
check in and see, oh yes, she is hungrier today, or oh yes, we are experiencing some cramping. How can I support her during that? Or oh yes, she's feeling really good today. Her energy's feeling high. I'm going to ask her if we can swap the carpool situation because I want to go do this thing. It just
Mm.
alleviates, confusion. We get to see each other clearer and better. Oh, glory be.
Yes, you are just giving us the practical reasons why we might be vulnerable and not lean into our 7 wing 8s out there, where those who are like me are like, "We don't trust people, we don't tell, we do it all on our own," and it's like, "No, you have to open up and share so that you guys can get along better," and like you said, have a better flow between you. Just, "Oh, yeah, this is a better day for you to hang, this is a better day for me," and I think that along with most women in culture, and I know we're doing better about this as a world, but I think there's been this expectation of women carrying every little piece of their cycle on their own and not having any support. And I think as Wes has gotten older, to be honest, he's better about it now. He was just joking this morning and he's really actually invested now in like what is going on. Um,
Yes.
but but I think that that would not have happened in the younger years with our cultural overlay. And I hope that those younger than us, like we said, Jack is getting that education and others to bring this up. So if you're a parent, bring this into your kids so that they know, like Jack knows his sisters have dark moments and it doesn't have to, like Evie said, ruin the relationship. But instead of doing art together or doing something more active, they might just want to watch one of their favorite movies together. And now they're still best friends. But that's how marriage is, that's how siblings are. And I just feel like we've been asked um non-verbally to carry that by ourselves as women, and that's where I'm coming from is why would I ask Wes to carry that when I'm supposed to carry it all by myself? And it's finally kind of hitting me, no, you're not. The Enneagram has helped me to see that. Like, that's not been good for your marriage, for your husband to be in the dark about this. And I think you're just shining this beautiful light for all of us as a reminder to say, please don't do this alone, right?
Yeah, because we're stronger together. We always are.
Mm,
And so I
yeah.
think, there potentially, if you are, sevens, eights, threes, hearing this and actually, well, no, I am strong enough to do this by myself and I can. I'm sure that you are, but I wonder if there's more strength in saying, I have lower energy today and I want to find you in that, and I'm open to being supported in that. Because, if we think about what the menstrual cycle represents, it
Mhm.
represents, the ability to
Mhm.
carry a child. Like
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
there is nothing else like that. That is one of the most magnificent things
Mhm.
to that we can do. And so we have this, kind of much smaller version of that each month. It's
Yeah.
still a big thing that's happening to your body. That's an
Mhm.
incredibly,
Yeah.
if you don't mind me saying, badass,
Woman. Yes.
that is a strong woman, okay? And
Yes.
so there is so much strength inviting people into that and saying, "Hey, I am lower energy today," or "Hey,
Yeah.
I am bleeding today and I am exhausted from it and I need to care for myself.
Yeah.
Like, can we join forces on this
Yeah.
and handle it together?"
Mm.
Um, would be my heart there is, for
Yeah.
those of us who have that 3, 7, 8 kind of
Mm.
power. I'm gonna call it
Yeah.
power. You
Thank
know
you.
what I mean.
Thank you, I love that. But I think that finding good women to come alongside us too is so important on the journey, and I think, that women want to be good women. Every woman wants to be a good woman, but, you're spelling it out for us. How we can do that together is to, be generous and gracious when women friends have to cancel on us, or, something that I've learned to do is, a lot of people have depended on me over the years to be the social leader in groups. And
Yes.
when I don't do it, and my podcast listeners know me as less social because I talk about that a lot. But my community has mourned that because they're like, why don't like just so you know, when you show up, you really make a difference. And I'm like, I know, but, like, when I was coming home, I was burnt out. So,
Yes.
I've kind of come into this newer space where my teen daughters literally take pictures of me and share them on their Instagram about this, but I will take a 5-minute nap anywhere, and they're not really sleeps, they're just, like, rests, and, especially during different times of the cycle. So, I just wanna welcome women to these. I have shared this with their dance friends, and, some of them have told me as they've gotten older, they're like, "Now I can rest anywhere." Um, but it's this permission to say, "I'm tired. Maybe I
Mm,
wanna lead this event, but while you're all doing, this craft or cooking or something else, I'm gonna just can I borrow your sofa for a few minutes?" And I feel like
mm,
that's made my female friendships richer because I'm like, "You thought I was on all the time, but I'm not. I get tired too, and I need balance too so that later today, there's something left for the rest of my family."
yes. Oh, so beautiful, so beautiful. And I think that is just such a crime that the rest of us kind of, we just assume that the threes, the sevens, the eights will just carry us. They'll just show up for us and they can, do the social thing and make the
Yeah,
rest of us feel comfortable and the rest of us can just coast.
yeah.
And that just is not fair. That is not fair. It's, in the same way that it's not fair to demand fours, five, and nines to, lead a speech if they're not feeling up to it, or to ask a one, two, or six to just keep,
Helping.
volunteering and volunteering year in, year out. We all do it, but I think this is just something we have to grow an awareness with in terms of just leaning completely and totally on three, sevens, and eights to just carry us through because they're good at it, and we don't find it as natural. I see it so much in my practice, and
Yeah.
yeah, we have to allow three, sevens, and eights to not be on and to be quieter and to be, calmer or serene, and create that space for them in our friendship groups or in our communities. That's so, so important. But I love this borrowing the sofa. I am
Yeah.
1000% stealing that. That is such a good little
Good.
idea.
Good, and I'm like, I don't care what your teenagers or elementary kids think, like, that's the cool thing about getting older is, like, I literally don't care if you're laughing at me, just you will not like, you will pay if you do, like, a prank on me, though. Because I am a 3, 7, or 8 at the end of the day. So,
Sure, sure,
like,
sure.
but I am just checking out here, and kids are so sweet because 'cause they're like, "Oh," like, a lot of kids, as we've talked about on this podcast, like, they connect more with us when we're in those seasons, like you just said, like, don't fear those later 2 weeks. That's a long stretch, but for me, this is a connecting stretch where I'm not like creating as much and I'm not doing as much. So this is where a lot of other friends or my kids might be like, "Oh, you're actually here. You're present." So I
Mm,
think that it's beautiful for you to remind us, as you did at the beginning of today, there is a beauty in all four. And I like how on our live you also liken them to the seasons of which ones correspond with the spring,
sorry,
summer, fall,
yes.
winter.
Yes, I should have said that earlier,
No,
of
it's
course.
okay.
So, the menstrual phase we could liken to the inner winter. It's this, if we think about how we have to show up in winter, if you live in a space with four seasons, you need to wear your puffy jacket. You need to make sure your gloves are on. You need to make sure you're having warm drinks. Well, actually, we need to do the same in our inner winter, in our menstrual phase. We
Mm.
need to wear fluffy socks. That is one of the best ways to
Oh,
alleviate
yeah.
cramps, because the socks, because the feet are so connected to the womb.
Yes,
By
yes,
keeping
they
the
are.
feet warm, we
Mm.
help keep that womb space warm. So that we can just use that language to really connect, on a really quick level, especially to partners. Oh, I'm in my inner winter. I need to, have a hot tea. I
Mm.
need to take a bath. I need to rest. We're usually more tired in the winter because we don't have as much vitamin D. So respond accordingly. Make sure your meals are nourishing you.
Mm.
A really great time to be eating warmer foods.
Mhm.
And then, we move through into the follicular phase, which is inner spring. Well, let's think of inner spring. Things are starting to come back to life. We're starting to come back to life. We're, preparing to bud and bloom. We need to water ourselves. We need some April showers.
Yeah.
We need to pour into ourselves. We need to have some space to be creative and play and be silly and
Mm.
just be free. That first day out the door where you don't need your big puffy jacket. Oh
Mhm.
my gosh, the freedom you feel.
Yes, so true.
Glorious. Yeah. So we create moments like that during your inner spring. And then, we move through into inner summer, our ovulation phase, when we're thinking of, those gorgeous days at the pool. The sun is out, you're having a barbecue, all of your friends are here, and the conversation is just easy.
Yeah.
That's your inner summer. How can you play with that? How can you set your week up to kind of reflect that and honor that? And then, yeah, the luteal phase, that 2 week stretch, is your inner autumn. We're starting to kind of shut down and prepare for winter. The leaves are starting to turn
Mm.
golden and fall to the ground.
Mm.
How can you start to reflect that? What can you do to slow yourself down? How can you find your sacred no and say, actually, it's getting a bit chilly internally. I need to put the fire on and make some s'mores. Like that's like a
Such
perfect
a good
kind.
analogy.
Yeah, yeah. To kind of say, actually, yeah, I'm gonna have a sweet treat and sit around the fire and have some deep conversation,
Mm.
and not force myself to move around lots, because that's what my body is needing at this moment. And so, yeah, the inner seasons, or just the seasons themselves, are a great way to connect on a really quick level if you're not sure where you are. Just working out which phase you're in and thinking of the season could be a really quick way to help yourself out or help your spouse out.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, and you're really even making me think of like 11, 12 teen years up to teens that are older to 20s to 30s to 40s to 50s to 60s. Like there's different phases where we're going to have to move differently through that. Like you said, with Mouse through the morning to night. Like I'm feeling just that seasonal pull of the grace that needs to surround even as we shift and change as women. And I also like how you added another overlay of chronic illness. Like when we have that too, we have to add that overlay in to further interpret for our relationships. How is this going to look today? And what kind of grace can I bring to this story? And how can my spouse and I together stop trying to push for the type 3 overlay of achievement, achievement, achievement in our relationships. So thank you for just shedding light on all of this.
Yeah, totally, totally. And I should have said at the beginning, but also I do have endometriosis, and I'm just about to get it's looking like I have PCOS as well. So
Mm.
I have a lot going on
Mm.
gynecologically. So
Yeah.
I'm not speaking to this from someone that has always enjoyed her menstrual cycle and it's
Yeah.
always been a breeze. there's been a real journey here, and it's a journey I'm still on, and it's a journey I'll be on for a while. And that journey encapsulates loads of different things, and one of them is struggling with the period. So just if anybody is listening to this and thinking, well, nice for you, Evie, but I have endo or I have PCOS.
Yeah.
I see you, I honor you. This journey is hard. I'm not pretending that it isn't.
Mhm.
If I can do it, and if I can find these moments, I have real belief and a
Yeah.
real hope that, yeah, you can as well. And I wouldn't say that if I didn't think it was possible, but I do really honor the
Yeah.
stories where actually it's a really hard journey. I
Yeah.
see that and I honor that for sure.
Oh my gosh. Thank you. Thank you for leading a generation into openness, honesty, authenticity, and also just like you said, coming alongside, not always as leader, but participant in it. And you guys heard hints like we could have spun off on so many things, and I wanted to today with her. But I want to honor everybody's time, especially Evie's. But really just please follow her because she has these golden nuggets for you, and she talks Enneagram language so much with it, with instincts, with triads. And we'll have to have her back another time to talk about all of this even more. But we were so happy we got to fit her in this journey of our sexuality month. And it was so perfectly timed. Thank you so much for joining us, Evie.
Oh, it's been just the greatest honor and the biggest pleasure for me, Krista. Thank you so much. The work that you're doing is just huge. Your impact is huge, and yeah, just how you carry yourself is just so beautiful. You make things accessible and safe for all of us, and I can't thank you enough. I've been listening to you for a long time, so yeah, the respect is huge. So thank you so much
Oh,
for having me on.
you are amazing. Thank you. You're going to make me cry. And I told you I'm not doing that.
No, no tears today. No.
No, tears are safe, guys. I'm learning this with you. But Evie, tell
Yeah.
us where we can find you specifically. I know I love following your IGs. You do a lot of beautiful videos. Tell us more, though, on all levels where we can find you.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm on Instagram and TikTok and now Threads. Threads has just come out. I don't know if anybody else is on it yet, but I'm on all of those platforms at the Type Guide. And then you can also find me on my website, which is where my coaching practice is housed. So that's www.thetypeguide.co.uk. So I work remotely, I work with people worldwide. So if this feels like you'd love some help, some advice, some coaching with this, then yeah, I work with individuals, I work with couples, I work with families. I'm here to support you, however that looks. But I have a lot of freebies over on my Instagram. So yeah, please do come and check them out. I'd love to see you there.
Oh, yes, your warmth and the order that you bring is just the perfect combination for this topic. So thank you, Evie. We are so grateful to you, to your husband, just for sharing this time with us.
Thank you so much, Krista. Thank you.
Mhm. Hey guys, thank you for walking through this time with Evie and I. What a gift it is to us to have somebody with this clarified information for us, to give us hope, to help us know we're not alone, to take on a comfortable lens for talking about a complex topic that some people want to run from. Thank you for staying here. I'm just so proud of you. So make sure you give yourself a huge pat on the back for doing your work today. And also, I think we had fun too, right? So let's really bring that spirit of understanding and connection into our months with us. We can just say, oh, I'm not alone. I'm so glad. Get Evie's freebie. Follow her on Instagram. I love her warmth. I love her joy. And I love her pairing and the way that she truly tries to be honest and vulnerable with us as she's doing her work too. Oh my gosh, doesn't that just bless us? So thank you guys. Have a great day. Head on over to the show notes and find everything you need at Evie's site and also at enneagramandmarriage.com. Okay, bye guys.